What's happening?
What's going on, brother?
We finally got it. We finally got it up and running, huh?
Took a long time, but we got it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I guess, in light of everything that's been going on, tell me, what do you think about, have you heard about the Baton Rouge shooting?
I've heard a little bit about it.
What is your take on it? And I'll kind of go into what I believe,
Well, I guess what my take on it is it looks like we have disgruntled black men from the military in the last kind of 2 police killings, and I believe that they're using this kind of as a final straw to get enough courage to do something to this magnitude. So I think that it's not like the normal person, normal criminal doing it, but more or less, it's both cases are somebody in the military. And so,
yeah,
in this criminal, this is just something to use to fuel it. But go ahead, what do you think?
Well, I've always been the type of person that believes, unfortunately, that blood only respects blood. I believe money respects money. I believe power respects power. I've never been one that believed that protesting is a viable option. Only because it kind of reminds me, I don't know, back in high school, I probably dated more women than I probably needed to. I was just untamed in my ways. And what I noticed about that experience was that, when I played those women that I did in high school, and they would try to shame me into feeling bad about it, I think I may have felt a bit of empathy to a certain degree, but it never really was anything that made me change my ways. Like, you know what I mean? It was almost kind of like, I really didn't feel sorry. It was just more of I just, oh, okay. It was just kind of like a brush off the shoulder kind of deal, if that makes sense. And I think of protests in the same way. And although I probably wouldn't have been, I would have hated them if they would have, like keyed my car or burnt my clothes or something like that. I would have hated that. But I think in this weird, sick, maniacal way, I think I would have respected it, because I would have had to respect it, even though I wouldn't have wanted it to happen, if that makes a lot of sense, or any sense at all. So, in these unfortunate events, I don't, my contention is that I don't believe that black men should be rallying against police, because I don't feel like police is our major threat. I don't even think they're a threat at all. I think poverty, I think our incessant need to promote poverty kind of and promote backwardness is more of a threat than a police officer could ever be. So in that sense, I don't agree that that should be our main focus. But at the same time, I do respect the fact that men were smart enough to realize that you don't attack a bully with begging. I've never been one who believed that. I believe that the only way a bully respects you is when you attack that bully. And I do believe that it is a bullying element to the way that police are dealing with African Americans, or not just. But I don't even think it's necessarily just contingent on race primarily. I think it's rooted in poverty and weakness. And I think that any group that was subjugated to the level that we are would probably endure similar atrocities to a certain degree. I just think our weakness is what makes us ripe for that type of maltreatment. And I think that racism is just one of those things that kind of operates in the background kind of like an afterthought. And because we phenotypically look so differently, I think that we could, we automatically run to that particular thought to think that that is the reason why we are at odds. But I don't think it is. I think it's weakness. I think it's because we have a relationship with white America that is very codependent on both sides. I believe that whites have been trained to believe almost that blacks don't have rights that they are subject to respect, and blacks have inadvertently kind of adopted a culture that believes that we are the perpetual victims as well. And I don't believe those two sit in the same space healthy in a healthy way, if that makes sense. So I believe, like I said, I think that the overarching theme is that it's just a product of weakness, and that's just what I think it is.
Mm-hmm. So very good assessment. I couldn't agree more with what you said.
And also I wanted to talk to you about this, the low IQ, high IQ Negro problem. And the reason why is, I have a couple theories, I guess.
Okay.
Nothing necessarily rooted in anything factual. It's just kind of my general assessment of what I've kind of just learned from just reading and kind of gathering information over time. And one thing I've noticed when I look back at, like, the 1920s, 1910s, when blacks were kind of somewhat thriving, even some of our schools were thriving. I look at the fact that we had the low IQ and the high IQ population of blacks together. I think that was probably what was able to root us, was able to kind of help us establish morals, just certain mores that were able to help us establish a stronger community. And now, with integration, it's kind of like, the higher IQ blacks have just kind of self-segregated to a certain degree, in more functioning societies where people are more like them in terms of IQ. Because I also believe that people of similar IQ will probably aggregate amongst themselves no matter what the race, because at the end of the day, it's like, when you think at a certain level, you typically want to be around people of your same level of thinking, even in relationships as well.
Right.
But the problem with that is that we've left a low IQ population unattended. You know what I mean? So now so now the higher IQ people are ostracized by the lower IQ people because, I think it's a sense of abandonment. And, I don't think many of them are able to understand or even articulate why they want to call the higher IQ black person a sellout. They just feel like, at the end of the day, you don't represent what I represent, so screw you, or you haven't done anything to benefit me, so screw you, kind of deal. And I'm witnessing this not just in the black community, but also in the white community as well. It's a lot of politicians that have sold out white Americans, the lower IQ white Americans, to the globalist agenda in terms of, they're just little by little selling the country away,
right,
to different global initiatives and corporate interests. And I think it's a similar spread that blacks have already faced post integration. Whites are starting to see that happen today. So you're seeing like political strife with whites because it's like their political leaders, their higher IQ whites are slowly separating away from them as well. And they're not taking care of home. And then blacks have already done it. We've done it. Like, we've kind of matriculated to, the upper echelons of societies, and we've just completely abandoned our low IQ population over the last, I'd say, at least 60 years or so. And you see the atrocities as they unfold in our inner cities every single day. Now, my, I feel if we were to fix it, I think that it's going to take people like, yourself and I to move back to these neighborhoods to kind of, even though it's going to be, this is going to be a contentious endeavor because we're not going to be greeted well. We're probably going to be, we're going to be, met with all kind of problems, you know what I mean? But I think that's the only real way to fix it if we plan on building a healthy Black America. Right. Now, and that's up for discussion as to whether or not that would be viable in this new global economy. I personally, and that's one thing we could do. Or I believe that, maybe if the higher IQ Blacks were to, in a selfless manner, marry, I believe personally that we'd have to marry other high IQ Blacks.
I agree.
Yeah, and create a new children that are able to compete. Now, I think that'd be the easiest way to do it. And I think that we would have to, because Blacks have gotten to this, I believe liberalism is kind of like a luxury item given to people who have done the work, created a certain level of wealth, and created, conquered enough. But I don't believe we are in a position to partake in liberalism at all. I believe we need to partake in a certain level of selflessness. I believe we need to marry women that are of higher IQ. We need tons of Black children born of higher IQ, and to combat against the rat, because they're not even thinking on those terms of, they're not thinking of legacies when Keisha's making babies with Pookie and Ray Ray. They're not thinking legacy. They're thinking, I want to fix right now. You know what I mean? I want to fix right now. And however the consequences play out, that's just what it is. And they're not intentional in their actions. It's just more of a, a base, just lower self-thinking. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of what I kind of ponder in my mind as to what I feel will address the issues. But overall, I don't know,
I agree a lot. What that, I've been back here in America, one on a move. And the neighborhood that I live in is, as you said, is ran by degenerate people. The problem is that lower IQ Blacks, I know there's a thing that, we don't really respect our high IQ Blacks. But when I was at Howard and even did some time at UC Berkeley for a little bit in Sac State, what I noticed is that a lot of higher IQ Blacks, as each generation subsides, is that they don't necessarily have a tie to the relationship to the ghetto. And it's different for Black folks as it is for Mexicans, because for Mexicans, if you're a high IQ Mexican or a low IQ Mexican, you still point back to Mexico. You're still pointing back to the Spanish language. You still point back to the same type of culture regardless. So you have that embodiment. I was watching CNN yesterday, and the foreign ambassador was a guy that went to North Texas, then went to Georgetown, went back to serve Saudi Arabia. So at the end of the day, he's still Saudi Arabian. What happens as a Black American is there's a subdivision within Black America, and it doesn't point back to a certain identity for all. It doesn't point to a certain country for all. It doesn't point back to a certain language. So if you give a low IQ Black who lives in the ghetto, and you're in your third or fourth generation living in DeSoto, Texas, for an example, it's hard to relate to the struggle that was going on in lower IQ communities. It takes somebody like myself who grew up in a lower IQ community like this one to want to come back and live in it, because I'm used to living in an environment like this. It would be different for somebody who their father went to Morehouse, their grandfather went to Morehouse, their dad went to Morehouse. They're all medical doctors, and then you're going to transform your life, you understand, living amongst the Black elite and come to a place like this. I think the brain drain comes for people like myself who are from a lower advantaged neighborhood like this, and then we leave. But I think, to your point, if you're used to a neighborhood like this, you can come back and have an impact. It's actually better because people know you. People see you as one of them. People will have a respect for you a little bit more because you're from there, but then you can still make it. It's a lot different, though, when you have a person who's coming from, 5 generations of Hampton University, and then, you're going to move back to South Side of Chicago. It's going to be a little different.
Yeah, that's very true. You have to speak the language, so to speak. And I guess because I grew up in the hood, but I grew up with a family that was very, to a certain degree, I would say that we were probably the Huxtables of the hood. My parents were married, happily married. I never, saw any dysfunction in my family or anything like that. So I guess so I understand exactly what you're saying. So I was around the neighborhood kids, my family took in neighborhood kids. My mom would teach neighborhood kids. We'd have like mini schools at my house, where my mom would just bring in all the neighborhood kids, man, and she teaches during the summer. And we read books, do book reports, different things of that nature. So yeah, I completely understand what you're saying, and it's funny because my girl, she's pretty professional, but she grew up more so on the Black bourgeoisie. She's more of that class, of that ilk, where she doesn't really speak the language of like the ghetto Black America, you know what I mean? And so, we kind of have a lot of issues and disagreements in terms of, wanting to, kind of harken back to that community or whatever. But yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying, because I deal with that divide every single day, you know what I mean? Trying to express the fact that we do need positive role models, positive Black families in the neighborhoods in order to make any type of sizable change. The only problem is that, it's hard to not be cynical to what can possibly be done in these communities, because some of these people are, they just appear to be so far gone that it's unreachable to a certain degree. And which kind of makes me also, want to believe that, just trying to create the new African American child, which will be of higher IQ, which will grow up in socioeconomic stability, and to see kind of where that will go. But I don't know, you know what I mean? How do we fix this conundrum? You know what I mean? That's more so where I'm at. I've heard, many of the different talking points. I listen to everybody on YouTube, even the people who are, completely on some crazy stuff. And I just kind of listen, not necessarily as, I listen just to kind of gather, the temperature of where my people are as a whole. And man, it's we have so many different opinions as to what is necessary. But I guess another one of my issues is, the whole white supremacy argument,
Right.
I don't know if you got a chance to check out the video that I did on why it doesn't exist. Um, I listened to a lot of Thomas Sowell. I don't know if you ever heard of that author.
Right.
Yeah, economist. And I've read a lot of his books. And what I've noticed, and I've read other books on economics as well. But what I've noticed in any book on economics is that productive people, they're going to produce what they produce no matter what. It's I don't think it's a race thing. I think it's just a productivity thing. And I think that blacks' a lack of overall production has made us believe in a myth called white supremacy, if that makes sense.
Okay. I'm going to jump into that, but let me deal with that, and I'm going to go back to healthy. Well, I'll start back from where you were before. And one of your points was we were talking about what can we do to make a healthy Black America, and I guess this is going to tie into my difference of opinion with you with this white supremacy thing. My whole idea is whenever Black people in this country gain some sort of advantage, whether it be affirmative action, whether it be anything, the powers that be somehow make a change in another way to counteract the advancement of Black people. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. You get one thing, but you lose something else. For example, you get welfare, okay? But you go for that, you lose the man in the house. All right, every time we make an advancement, like for example, we get the Plessy versus Ferguson. Okay, you get the integration, but then what you do lose is you lose Blacks from neighborhoods, like you've been mentioning, moving to other neighborhoods. My solution is that Black people must understand that in America, you don't have nothing coming. I mean, this whole dependency thing, as you've been saying, at some form or another, we got to go back and look at these people in Britain. When they went to Kenya, when they went to Uganda, when they went to South Africa, when they came even to America, they took people that came here, many times was not even their best people, was their worst people at times. They were able to go someplace different, figure out a new economy, a new educational system, and do it themselves. As Black people, we got to understand we don't have nothing coming in America. Trying to rebuild America as Black people and staying in America doesn't make any sense. You're going to get defeated. I mean, just think about it. Our ancestors have fought wars for this country. We are now the third biggest minority. We didn't get nothing as the second largest minority. Okay. Now Mexicans, many of them who didn't fight in the wars, many of them who didn't go to Vietnam, they got more rights than we do. Okay. The Nigerians, the African Caribbeans, hey, they didn't do anything. In fact, when the Biafra War jumped out in Nigeria, they was coming over here taking affirmative action scholarships for Blacks in this country. So you got to understand the powers that be will not allow Black people in this country to become the top dog. What's smart is Black people need to not be afraid to be dispersed. Go to African country that needs help. Okay, I mean, we know the story of Liberia. The story of Sierra Leone. These are English-speaking West African countries that can use Black people to rebuild their economies. And I think that Black people should go to where they're going to be the first-class citizens instead of being third or fourth class here, because you don't have anything coming. All right, for those people who do make it, let's say if you get the healthy IQ kids, the tons of those, you're going to have tons and tons and tons of kids that don't make it. That's just how it is. All right. For a guy like myself who's coming from my neighborhood to go to medical school, maybe the first guy in the last 40 years from this neighborhood to do so, how many didn't go? You understand? So, and then back to your point of white supremacy. Well, let's talk about that. White supremacy pretty much says, in a nutshell, because you're Black, you are less than. All right. I don't know if you saw my video I did on natural hair. And what does that video talk about?
I did.
It talks about.
I did. Great video.
Thank you. It talks about the fact that you're ashamed for having a certain course or texture of hair. Black people, even when white people were noticing black folks in Africa, they didn't necessarily say that they were stupid based off of skin tone. They noticed a lot of things about them, their emotions and some of their actions. And so they were able to devise a thing that these people are stupid. These people don't have any kind of sense. So what you see now in America is not necessarily white supremacy based off of skin tone, but white supremacy really based off of economic structure, which black people are at the bottom of that structure as a whole. So when you look at who are your businesses that are coming out, I mean, don't get me wrong, black people do it to themselves too, but there is a still sense of strength, white identity amongst the world. Black people are at the bottom of the totem pole in every country they're in, not just America. South Africa, which they're even the dominants there. Okay, so white supremacy exists to a certain degree, but it can also hide itself with an economic infrastructure. And black people got to understand that in America you don't have anything coming. You got to be the person that knows how to fix tablets, knows how to fix a screen, knows how to make a safety pin, know how to make computers. Dr. John Henrik Clarke talks about this. We got to be able to do our own economy, be able to build our own infrastructure. And as long as black people are in America, we will never be forced to do that because we'll always have somebody else to do that. And that's the problem. I believe that black people surely should keep their citizenship, keep their passports and stuff, but we should be trying to join and build Ghana. We should be trying to build Liberia. We should be trying to build Sierra Leone, because you don't have anything coming here. You just don't. As a race of people, I just don't see it. I don't see it.
I agree to a certain degree. I am in a process of getting my dual citizenship in Ghana. Because I am. I've been to Africa couple times. But I've been in Nigeria. So and it was a good experience, man, because I was able to kind of see, I was able to see black stores. I was able to see, black restaurants, black retail chains, and that was just it was just good to see. I also got a chance to see black dysfunction. I got a chance to see some of the same things that we deal with here, in our neighborhoods. And I agree to a certain degree that we do have to fix our problems. I don't know necessarily that we'll be able to get it established in Ghana or anywhere else if we can't get it established here first, because I believe that, and I definitely don't believe we have anything coming of real true fruit. I believe if anything that we have coming, it will come as a crutch. It'll come as some type of charity offering that will ultimately be destructive. I believe what we definitely need to give back is liberalism. I am a staunch conservative. I will be voting for Trump, just to put that out there. And the reason,
Me so. Me also.
And the reason why, and what I need for black folks to understand about this is I'm not voting necessarily for Trump because, of his racial inclination. Like, it's all about the principles. It's about the value system. And I believe that blacks in America can't afford to be liberals. Liberalism to me is for college rebels who want to rebel against the system, to try new things, which is good. I think liberalism it plays a good part in societies, because I believe it fosters new ideas, it fosters new innovations, it challenges the system quo, And I think that that is a good thing. Where I think liberalism is bad is when it confuses its innovation, that rebel side with stability. I believe conservatism is the mark and the stronghold of stability, greatness, honor, integrity, family values. I believe conservatism builds countries. I think liberalism plays a part in, you know, challenging conservatism. But outside of that, I don't think it plays no real role in building anything. And I believe that Black people need to adopt strong conservative values. Too many Black people feel like they can just do whatever they want to do. The men are out here thinking that they can just play women and, you know, not be responsible in families, not, it's not about doing what you want to do. It's about doing what you have to do. What will, you know, ensure the greatness for, you know, years to come. So, and I have plenty theories on that. Like I have the 50-50. I live by the 50-50 principle where I pay myself 50% and I save and I use 50% on everything that I do. And I've been doing this for a while. You know, and it's a way to where you can economically set yourself free, even if you have a job, you know what I mean? But even beyond that, just to get back to the white supremacy thing, at the end of the day, I believe that Blacks can be productive. We just have to figure out a lane that works for us. And I think we have to divorce, like what you said, we can't believe that we have something coming. We have to completely divorce the idea that we think something is coming and just kind of focus on what we can do to be productive citizens to the world. I think we have to get rid of the race narrative because I don't believe that advances our cause. I think that what it does is it gives us a sense of social currency that makes other groups. It's funny because it's funny how Black Lives Matter to me is kind of like social currency, where whites will actually feel like, huh?
I actually definitely agree 100%.
It's like whites will really feel like, and the thing about social currency and real currency is that people really believe that you're getting something with social currency. And it's kind of like, like if you see a guy who is extremely cool and he steps into a room and all the women just kind of swoon around him and they love him, at the end of the day, you're not going to be as empathetic to helping this guy, even though he hasn't done anything but just be that cool guy who stepped into the room and got all of the women, right? But you're going to be like, okay, he got it. He got everything under control. This is the way you'll perceive it, even though it's not real. He could be broke. He could be, completely destitute, but he just has a way with women. But just that social currency that he gains will make you say, oh, he's good. He's good. You know what I mean? He has nothing to worry about. You know what I mean? And you're not going to come to the aid of that person. Now, to me, Black people have to get away from this social currency. It's kind of like, I was listening to Jason Black do a video, and he was talking about how Blacks need to, go to Black banks. We need to bank with Black banks, and I completely agree with him. But he framed it in this way of, this is war against white people and all of this kind of, and it's like, no. Because see, what you're doing right there is you're creating a social currency that's higher than what the reality of what we need to do is. We really just need to just, bank Black because it's just advantageous to our overall growth as a people. It doesn't have to be this whole white supremacy, the evil white. It doesn't have to be that. Just go and do it. You know what I mean? I kind of look at like Asians. Asians are they're the most successful group in America today. And we don't even hear anything about it. It goes completely under the radar. And it's because they're not looking for social currency. They're looking for real currency only. You know, they're not trying to make a theater of it. They're not trying to stage some big event to make you think that they're the awesome people trying to come against anything. You don't have to do that. Just do it in reality. And the thing about it is, I believe China is probably one of the biggest threats to America, as quiet as kept, than any other group on the face of the planet. And it's funny because whites are more concerned about what blacks are doing, but in reality, it's the Chinese that they should be worried about because they actually have power that is threatening. They actually have it. Same with Russia. You know what I mean? So, and it's funny because, and that's the reason why I don't like these black liberation type speeches, because I think they they only serve the purpose of creating a big stir
Right.
over nothing.
I totally agree.
You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. You preaching right now, Reverend. Right now, Reverend.
So, hopefully, we can, get away from the rabble rousing and all of this kind of stuff, because I really don't believe it's productive. And that's the reason why I'm not into the whole white supremacy thing. I think what we're doing is accepting our place of inferiority when we speak this, like I call it the ministers of white supremacy. I think that we just, what, like what we're doing is we're creating this fictitious, all-seeing, all-knowing God, and in essence, kind of like just relegating ourselves to an inferior position. And I don't believe that is the case. I mean, I've went to school with, whites, all different nationalities, and I've outcompeted many of them. You know what I mean? And I believe that more black people could do the same if we just adopt a new sense of a victorious nature. We need to have a victorious nature, a nature that is about competition, that is about being the best, is about excellence, that is about integrity. And we need to harshly condemn the ones who are against that ideology. And I believe right now we're watching a war unfold between the higher IQ blacks and the lower IQ blacks, and that the lower IQ blacks are trying to shame the higher IQ blacks because they're smarter. And instead, they should be trying to listen to the higher IQ blacks to try to take heed to what they're doing in order to be successful themselves. And they don't have to have the same higher IQ, but they can at least take heed to what the higher IQ blacks are saying. That way we can all be productive as a group. What do you think about that?
Let me get, so as far as the last part, say it loud. So the higher IQ blacks and the lower IQ blacks. Can you repeat that one more time, the last part? The question last part?
The higher IQ, like right now, I feel like it's a war between the higher IQ blacks and the lower IQ blacks, and that the higher IQ blacks are ostracized the higher IQ blacks by, with the coon, the sellout, the, this kind of stuff. Instead of just listening and taking heed, they're kind of,
Oh man, I can go on all day about that.
But how do we fix something like this? Because I think that they think that they're smart in their attacks, but in reality, they need to be listening. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. How can it be fixed? Well, what I'm going to say, you might not like it or you might not necessarily agree with it, but the thing about it is that I was just, for example, I was watching Sheriff David Clark. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I have.
Now, many higher IQ blacks who want to help the black community, first of all, are going to lead with a message that you're not going to like. Okay, I'm not trying to compare it to Christ, but if you look at Christ's message during the time in which he lived, it was a message that most people didn't like. In fact, it was to the point where he wasn't even that popular while he was living, but he got more popular in his death. And the thing about it is that those black people who will want to help black people, many of the higher IQ blacks understand that it's too much work dealing with Negroes. It's too much work dealing with it's too much work dealing with stupid people. But see, unlike white people who are dumb, the lower IQ whites, they understand submissiveness to people who are smart, no matter what your race is. Okay, when a white person knows that you are smarter than him, that person, their culture teaches them to be a little submissive to you. Okay, we are the only group of people who are not in submission to authority of higher intelligence. So what happens is, and I have friends who are dentists, went to Meharry and everything like that. We have a lot of people who would like to help black people, but we understand that many of them understand the hassle that's going to come across. All right, so let's X out 80% of those. The 20% who are willing to do it is going to have a message that you're not going to like. Now, let me say this: you do have your Cornel West, and some of your liberal types of blacks who are smart, Eric Dyson, stuff like that. Those guys who have a message that's very stupid, in my opinion. And they're
poverty pimps. They're poverty pimps.
Yeah, taking advantage of black people. So you do have your intellectuals who have sold out. But to the real conservative blacks like myself and you got to understand our message that we're going to present is going to be met with a whole lot of discourse. It's going to be met by a whole, even in my videos. I've had threats. I've had people tell me they're going to do this and that. I did a Facebook Live video in my neighborhood. And as so many words saying, anybody who got a problem, you know where I live. This was just about 2 weeks ago. Okay? Wow. This is how bad it's gotten. So you got to understand that coming and dealing with black people, you got to hit them head on. There's no way to deal with us but to deal with the truth. Who is willing to come out and tell the truth? And when you tell them the truth to Negroes, you can't sugarcoat it. You got to tell it like it is. You got to tell it like it is. And the problem is, when you tell it like it is, you're going to be, there's a price you're going to have to pay for that. And it is what I call a thankless task, brother. A thankless task. Now, my channel, I don't ask any donations. I'm one of the few bloggers. I have about 3,400 subs. People kind of know me in the sector. I'm not big time or anything, but I don't ask for any money. The reason why I do it is a thankless task. And the problem is, you're going to have to be a sacrifice pretty much on that cross. And black people do not want to hear that they have a problem. They are a part of their own problem. These Negroes don't want to hear it. I'm sorry, I'm turning it up now. They don't want to hear it. And a lot of people, you worked and went to dental school, brother, you went to pharmacy school, you went to medical school, you passed step 1, step 2 CK. Listen, you get tired of dealing with Negroes, man. Negroes asking me for money. Look, this is how Negroes are. I'm gonna tell you what these I'm gonna use my David Carroll, these shines. First, niggas are the kind of people to think. I just saw on Dr. Boyce Watkins. I really don't like Dr. Boyce Watkins a lot, but there was a post where somebody said that 10% of all NBA athletes need to get back to the black community. This is how dumb black people are. You expect that higher tier athletes are going to give back to you, and you don't give shit to yourself.
Exactly.
I will make a video, matter of fact, on that. Don't give these Negroes nothing. Don't give them shit. And what I'm telling you is that those people who have a heart for it, if you're going to tell the truth, you got to deal with the consequences that you're going to be hit with a lot of fire.
Exactly.
Can we tell them, I risk maybe, I'm not saying losing a residency or losing things, but I don't gain anything monetarily from what I do. In fact, people say, why do you do these videos? You're in medical school. Why do I do these videos? Because the thing is, the truth is the light. I'm willing to risk it all for the truth, but not everybody's going to do that.
Exactly. And I completely agree. It's real hard because you have these poverty pimps who, and I don't know if it's any maniacal, reasons as to why they do what they do. I just think it is. I personally just think it's sick because they sell people on this victimhood, and they think that they're. I don't know. I don't understand. I just don't. Like the Eric Dysons, the Cornel West. I just don't understand these people, because I know they're smart enough to understand that they didn't get to where they are, playing the victim. They worked their butts off to get where they are. And for them to just continue to just like sell this message, I don't understand the motivation. I think that, and it's funny because back to kind of like what you were saying, like this is the reason why, the whole white supremacy thing kind of is just so annoying to me, because it's like the problems that blacks have today, we don't need white supremacy for. Like, we don't need white supremacy for our out of wedlock birth rate. That will destroy any community. We don't need them for our, our low business participation rates. We don't need a white supremacy for our inner city violence. We don't need it for our rap music. Literally, and it's funny how these I guess martyrs to a certain degree. I'm gonna call them martyrs because I'm just a realist, and I don't care what anybody thinks about that. But I think that these people are going to shoot cops, right? Mm-hmm. Which, okay, whatever. If you have your contentions with the cops or the police, I understand, because I do feel like they're too aggressive in the way that they handle black males. I feel this way. Now, the black males that they're taking out, am I really concerned? No, because these people are probably scourges on society anyways. Like, so, regardless, they, it's just, just being honest. But so I have issues on both sides. But at the same time, I'm like, you're mad with this person, but this rapper, Lil Wayne, probably sells more negative, evil propaganda of black men across the globe than these police officers ever could in a million years. And this is the irony of it. It's like you have somebody like Lil Wayne who literally promotes the most vile, vicious propaganda about black men across the world. I mean, globally. So when people, and it's funny because like, I work in a real professional environment, and it was funny because when I first gotten out of school, I worked in like this little, small town to kind of get some experience or whatever. And what I noticed was the white people that lived in this town out in Texas, they had never really encountered like blacks other than the blacks that they, they basically the higher IQ blacks. Those are the only blacks that they had really encountered. So the way that they perceived these neighborhoods was so off. I mean, it was crazy. Like they would say things like, because when I was living there, because I'm a person who, I eat bitter, what they like to call it. Like I eat bitter, meaning it's a Chinese proverb that I, got from this book. I read a lot about African and Chinese history. And they call it eating bitter because basically they live so far beneath their means that it's bitter. You know what I mean? But you're eating, but you're bitter, and you're able to save a lot. But beyond that, these people believe that these black neighborhoods were like in the movies. Like they really believe that Lil Waynes were running around raping, just pillaging, shooting up. And to a certain degree, it is that way. But somebody who, because at that time I was actually living in the hood. Like I was living in a low income neighborhood because I can speak the language of these people. I understand these people. I understand that Pookie, like not to sound like, the didn't do nothings, you know what I mean? Like they like to say, but I understand that Pookie is not a bad dude. You know what I mean? Like I've been around enough Pookies to understand that, yeah, they probably have their hiccups, but they're not evil people out lurking to kill people. It doesn't work that way. Even some of these gang members are not just evil people, or, they have their little beasts, and some of them are just complete detestable human beings. Yeah, that is true. But on average, I would say that a lot of these people are just misguided. They're, and the stuff that they're indoctrinated with is just so sick that they've adopted a culture that they feel is normal to them, but on the outside world, when you extrapolate that to the outside world, it's just completely detestable. But according to them, it's their culture. So I can understand why Keisha will come out and say he didn't do nothing. He was a good person. You know what I mean? Because from her perspective, he really was a good person, because the culture is so backwards there that backwards is considered normal, if that makes any sense.
Oh no.
But when I was talking to these white people about where I lived at that time, they were like, "Oh my God, like how could you live somewhere like that? Where I hear that that they rape women when they walk by, and they shoot people indiscriminately and blah blah blah." Which you had a little bit of that going on, but it wasn't like to the degree that they thought it was. Nowhere even close. You know what I mean? Because you're probably in a hood right now where where it's predominantly black, like you said, and that it's not like that. But from the outside looking in, that's all you would think. You would think that these people were evil, all the time. And rap music probably perpetuates more of that than anything else. And I would think that black people would be more angry with rappers than they are with the cops, because those are the people who are really selling this image to the greater world. Like they're selling this image of degeneracy to whites, blacks, Asians, Africans, and everywhere. You know what I mean?
I think that it goes back to historical relationships with blacks and policemen. And I think a lot of ways that black people got back at the police was to hide criminals in those days. No snitching policy, because they hated the police so much. Not necessarily hating not necessarily they approved of what the criminal did, but they hated the police. And it goes back to just being that black people are just not really that bright. This is one of David Carroll's big talking points, which I'm a fan of his channel, and he says black men are not that bright, but I'm gonna take it a step further. Black people on average are not bright people. We gotta understand that. So the people who are going to get it like me or get it like you is going to happen because we're just not stupid people. The problem is most black people are controlled because they are stupid. It's evident. I mean, within, for example, let's take Mexicans. Okay, Mexicans have a high population of them being in prison. They have a high population of them at police brutality. However, Mexicans would have never rioted on the case of Alton Sterling, okay, because they understand that if you do something like that, you will get killed. That's just what happens. But black people, we don't get that. Not only are we going to riot, we're going to show up to the Black Lives Matter movement. Some of them niggas just shot somebody the night before out there protesting. I mean, this is how stupid black people are. You see what they look like, you see what they dress like, you see what they talk like. So really, the masses of black people are ignorant. They are dumb. And when you have a mass population of stupid people, they cannot be helped. This goes back to the fact of why your black elites want nothing to do with stupid ass black people. I can tell you that for a fact right now. I'm living amongst my old neighborhood after seeing Poland and coming back and being in academia for this whole year and coming back here. I can tell you personally, there's no growth here. There's no development here. When you're amongst stupid people, people who are degenerate, people who are dumb, you get nothing out of it. In fact, what's going to happen is you're going to have to become more like them than become like you. And to your point, you said you can speak the language of Pookie and Ray Ray. So can I. I mean, I know if you listen to some of my blogs, you can see there are points where my niggaology comes out. But the point is, Pookie and Ray Ray should be speaking your language. You see, we always have to come down to speak their language. We have to always be subservient to them. They're never trying to come up and speak our language. I mean, you even have more lawyers and doctors when they go out and hang out. I mean, you have you have them dressing sometimes like street niggas, wearing the same things they wear, wearing Jordans, wearing things of this nature. When you are a high intelligent black person, you know that you don't want to look like somebody who is stupid. I mean, this should be the first rule. This is not motherfucking math.
That's true.
Okay. Go ahead.
I call it regressive cultural adaptation. Um,
You did a video on this. You did a video.
Yes.
Let me just say this last part. So, but the thing is, we always have to speak Pookie and Ray Ray language. Like I said, Alton Sterling, this shouldn't even have been a deal. Okay, the nigga knew he had no business doing what he was doing. Now you have people losing their lives, people for nothing. See, it all comes down to the fact that black people are not bright. You understand? They're stupid people. They cannot be helped in the majority. What can happen is people like me and you, we can save ourselves, but the rest of these niggas.
Oh man, it's sad but true. It's sad but true. You know, and that's the reason why I proposed to a lot of these, because I listen to a lot of these female vloggers as well, and I'm like, and these are the ones who are saying, you know what, I'm done with black men. I'm talking about these are high intelligent females on a female standard. Some of them say some completely idiotic stuff, but at least they're thinkers. And you could tell that they're not of, the lower rungs of IQ. And, and they're sitting up here saying, I don't want to have children. I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to have children? Like, that's the exact opposite. Like, you need to want to have children because you need to want to have children with other high IQ black males, because that is our saving grace. Like, if you don't have children, Keisha's going to have 5. And she doesn't care even about the children at all. She's just trying to get her rocks off for the night. And if a child comes as a result, then this just is what it is. Like, it's not even deep to her. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but it all boils down to the fact that I think it is incumbent on the higher IQ blacks we need to make children. I think we need to make children with other high IQ black females. With no compromise. I think that is our saving grace. We can't just do what the hell we want to do. We're going to have to leave massive legacies behind. That's just what I think we're going to have to do. I don't think we have any options at this point. And I don't know how to help the lower rung of society, man. I really don't know, because like you said, they're going to persecute anybody who tries to come and help them. I don't know. You know what I mean? No matter what, they're going to come at your neck, man, if you try to tell them what's best for them.
The only kind of way that this can happen is it must come through the church. I mean, the only way to make any kind of reform, there's a few people that black folks respect. One is the pastor. Okay, the black pastor can say anything, get away with anything. Okay,
true.
This is a person, if he has the same idea as me and you, and if he's organized under the guise of white Jesus, or quote unquote, he can pull these things off. A church community can pull these things off. But the problem is you have churches like the Church of God in Christ. I don't know if you've heard of these people.
Yes.
Largest black denomination. I mean, even they have been bought out against. I know you heard about the sermon that was preached by Superintendent Earl Carter, denouncing gays and homosexuality. And, the Church of God in Christ is one of those organizations who always preach those kind of sermons. And they put him out behind it because he offended gays. So now you have even your black churches who have adopted liberal policies. So, it has to come through the black church.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't have a chance. It's the only chance you got.
I agree. And I would, even me being a little bit more leaning more towards the agnostic side, I still recognize the power of Christianity, because it's the only thing that governs people's lower self effectively. Yeah. And that's what we're starting. I'm seeing as Christianity subsides, society is starting to cater to its lower self more than ever before. We're relinquishing all of our inhibitions. all of our taboos, the things that were considered taboo in society, are celebrated as righteous to a certain degree, and anybody who opposes them are becoming the new treasonous people that they, try to lynch. So I agree, man. I think the church is one effective way to get it done. The only problem with the church that I have is that it ushers in a sense of dependency, a sense of weakness, a sense of forgiveness. Um, and those are the things that I feel like need to be countered um, with logic. Now, where I agree with the church is in its sense of family values, in its self governance. Um, where I disagree is where it, like, we can't be turning the other cheek. That's the reason why, it's like, that turn the other cheek mantra. I don't think that's the way for Black people. But at the same time, I don't think that preaching and all this kumbaya, I don't believe that's the way. Um, I believe I am of the ilk of eye for an eye. I believe that's the only thing that works. Unfortunately, I feel like you can come sit down at the table, you could talk it out, and if you're under a tyrannical rule and and it's oppressive, I believe that the only way to fight back is through bloodshed. Unfortunately, I truly believe that that's the only way to fight combat tyranny is with bloodshed. So, and I believe if we can, cloak some form of Christianity that is rational, that is logical in that sense, and we can rid ourselves of this perpetual poverty mentality that Black people have, this perpetual victim class that we have, I think that we can have some productive Christianity being taught. Um, you know, that's just what I think, and I think it definitely, we definitely have to rid ourselves of these. If listen, if Hillary Clinton wins, I believe that Black people will go back another 50 years. Our progress will be thwarted another 50 years easy.
Oh,
Hmm?
yeah. I agree.
Because she's gonna embolden Black women who are already out of alignment. Um, she's gonna embolden everything that is moralistically degenerate in terms of family values. I mean, she's gonna butcher our foreign policy, and she's not gonna do anything that's gonna economically embolden Blacks. Um, I do believe that Trump will be kind of like a paradoxical win for Blacks, even though Blacks don't necessarily see it that way. I believe that Trump will be what I believe Trump will be for Blacks what Obama was for gays.
Mm,
Uh, Let me tell you what I mean by that, because this is what I think will happen with Trump. It's just my observation. I can never, be right about this. This is just my observation. I believe that if Trump does build that wall, who do you think is going to be employed by that? I believe that's going to open up opportunities for Blacks to work. I believe that if he does, renegotiate these different trade deals and bring back some of these jobs to America, some of these industrial jobs where Black people are competitive in, I believe that's going to benefit Black people. I believe that Trump is not going to play into the victim narrative that I believe personally is hindering Blacks from any form of success. I don't believe that Blacks. I'm extremely. I don't believe we need any of these policies that are giving us social currency. Like I believe. I'm just be honest with you. I believe even the Civil Rights Act is social currency to a certain degree. Now, I do feel like it's viable and I do feel like it has helped us, but in a lot of ways, I don't feel like it is going to be what we need in order to succeed. Black people need to depend on Black people. I don't think we need to be in a situation where we're dependent on white people for every single thing that we need. I think we need to divorce this thought, because even if we do depend on white people, we need to depend on white people from a position of power, from a place where we can negotiate equally with them, not in a position of begging them. So any policy that I feel that makes white people have to deal with us, I think is a bad policy, because I don't feel like that's where we need to be. Personally, I don't think we need to be there. I think it will further the divide that we have now, and it'll keep us from dealing with our own issues, kind of like what you said in that hair weave video. We need to deal with our problems. We need to problem solve, figure them out, however they need to be figured out, and get it done. And so that's the reason why I feel like Trump will probably be more of a paradoxical win for blacks. And I don't feel like, as much as he probably, thinks that, whites are going to gain all of this, I don't think so. I think that I think he's going to probably disappoint a lot of whites. I think he's going to embarrass a lot of whites. I'm just being completely honest. I think he's going to embarrass them. I think he's going to let them down, because he's not going to be able to get the things that they would ultimately want, especially the people who are of the white supremacist standpoint. I think he's going to be a complete embarrassment to them. I honestly do. And I think he's going to probably be just this sideways win for blacks. However it goes, even if it just scares black people into depending on ourselves, we still win.
Yes. I definitely agree. Everything you just said, I can't even rebuttal anything. I totally agree.
So, I just kind of hope everything pan. But it was it's great talking to other intelligent black men. You don't really get a chance to do that often. What is your take on, like, one more thing, on arranged marriages? I'm a lead off with this right here. I think, I wasn't arranged in anything, but if I had a daughter, I do believe that I would want to arrange a marriage. I think that the Jews were able to practice this very well. I personally believe they were able to probably bolster their IQs as a result of it, because they were able to handpick people who were going to be overall the best companion for their children. If you look at the statistics on arranged marriages, like for, say, in India, where the divorce rates are less than 5%, and they typically lead more productive lives overall. Mm-hmm. I personally believe that with blacks, our divorce rate hovering somewhere around 80%, it's ridiculous. It's completely out of control. I think that we need to get out of thinking we can do what the hell we want to do. Like this liberal, liberation. I think we have to get out of this thinking. And I think that black women are not smart enough to pick men who will be providers for 30 years. I just don't think they are. Not at 18, 19, 20, 25. A lot of them are not smart enough to pick decent men until they're in their 30s after 5 or 6 baby daddies.
Preach, Reverend. Preach.
You know what I mean? So I think it's just advantageous for the higher IQ blacks, to arrange marriages for our children. I just really think it is, because if we don't do this, if we're not intentional in our actions, then we're going to be playing defense. And we don't need to be playing defense with a group of people who are continuously advancing, and a global economy that's continuously advancing. We need to be intentional in our actions. And I believe that, if, like I say, I don't know when you have children, but I believe that your children should be with children that grew up similar to your children. You get what I'm saying?
Right. When you actually mentioned the same sentiment on one of my videos, because you comment, not almost every video, but it's frequently, and you mentioned this. And since you have mentioned this, I totally 100% agree. I would rather be arranged my damn self. I'm 35. I started medical school a little bit later in life. But what you have just said is probably one of the best things I've heard anybody say about healing the blacks. It starts there. Listen, that's genius. I know a girl from South India, one of my good friends. She's in medical school with me in the first year. She had to leave class actually for a week because she had 3 interviews. Parents lives in France, but they had 3 different children, 3 different guys, or 2 different guys rather, come to meet the family. One guy just graduated at Bachelor of Science of Johns Hopkins University and is going to start his first year. They were interviewing him to see if she wanted to marry him. So these things happen, amongst the time of 22, 21, even sooner. I would love that now. I mean, bro, if there was a way, and I mean, I have a guy who's a Yoruba OBGYN, and he's a chief, I think, or some sort of chief, and but the first question is how do we do it? It's such a genius idea, and where the hell do we start? Because it's now you can kind of pick and choose what you want.
Exactly. Well, I was when I first thought about the idea, I thought about a website where we would basically have some type of website set up to where wealthy families, wealthy black families, or well-to-do families would take, you'd pay like, maybe, 20, maybe 30,000, you put it down. And what this money would do was you put it into like a trust fund, and then it would grow to a certain amount. And then after a certain age, you would use this money to put down for your wedding. And then the families, you would pick a family that you wanted to follow or whatever. And then whenever they got to a certain age, you would let them meet and see if they like these different people. They would go on certain interviews or whatever. And then if they found a person that they liked, or that and then the family agreed, then they would give that money to them. They pay the website for doing the service. And then they would, take that money and start their lives. That's what I initially thought. And, it's nothing like that now. I don't know how we would be able to foster anything like that now. And the only reason why I came thought about the website idea was because we're so scattered, and especially the higher IQ blacks. We're scattered and we're hidden in these white suburban communities most often. And we don't have access to each other. And I thought that this would be, the most viable option to be able to do, and I've left comments under certain females, and I get attacked for this idea, man. It's like people, they don't get it, but they don't understand that, at the end of the day, arranged marriages, divorce rates are less than 5%, and if you have a family that's marrying another functional family, 9 times out of 10, you're going to create a functional marriage, because marriage is not based on the superficial things that may attract you. I kind of liken it to buying a car. When you first buy a car, of course, it's all beautiful. Or when you buy a computer, yeah, it's all beautiful at the beginning. But after about a year, when stuff starts going wrong on it, it's not as fun as it used to be. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of black people, not just black people, but Americans in general, our American culture, it's we this is the way we feel. We feel we'll just get with somebody for the things we like now. It's not about delaying gratification to something that is going to be more fruitful later, or picking people with values. It's about right now. So we get caught up in all these superficial things, and then we marry somebody that we don't like 5 years later, because we never liked them. We just like the, what I mean? We just like the aesthetics, that were appealing at that moment, and then we end up in a codependent relationship that we're trying to just hang on to out of guilt, but we never really felt like this person was a viable option to begin with. And
you know what? That's a good idea, man. I mean, you're telling the truth. I didn't even think about the trust fund thing, but keep going. That was a good idea.
You know, so that's the reason why I believe that marriages should be definitely arranged. And the trust fund thing would be more so of a, you don't want anybody to be able to get in. You want the serious people in something like that. That's why I said up 25,000. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have that 25,000 to invest in your children, then you're probably not one of the people who need to be doing it anyways, because you're not serious.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what you wanna rid the people who aren't serious about it. And it's not something that wouldn't go to the children anyways, the most part of it anyways, but it's just something to kind of weed out the people who are not serious about what they're doing. But yeah, man, I really believe that that's gonna be our saving grace. And I believe we're gonna have to operate in a functional culture. It's funny because I kind of look at the Jews as well. They do the same thing, in my opinion. I believe what the Jews do is they promote liberalism, but they practice conservatism in their personal lives.
Really?
Huh?
Of course, they want everybody else to fail except for them.
Exactly. So they can remain the ruling class. So they promote all of this freedom, liberalism, homosexuality, all of these different, degenerate cultural practices. But in their, they're saving their money. They're arranging many of their marriages. They're, like they're doing the exact opposite of what we're doing. You know what I mean? And the exact opposite of what even they promote. They even promote this stuff. It's crazy. They promote, look, they're some of the biggest promoters of rap music. They're some of the biggest promoters of every form of evil entertainment.
Porn.
I mean, and it's funny because we're sitting up here catering to our lower selves, but they're not. They're doing the exact opposite. So I think we're going to have to take cues from them. And, for the blacks who feel that they can't integrate in the lower rungs of black society, then I think the next viable option is to arrange marriages. I believe the ones who feel like they can go back, then we still need to arrange marriages, but try to initiate some type of stability in those neighborhoods, because I believe people ultimately can be led. I just think that I think black people, with them having lower IQs, would need more draconian style of governmental enforcement to make them more compliant, opposed to like what whites may need. When you have a higher IQ population, you need less draconian tactics in order to, stabilize any type of region. If you go to like Nigeria, I mean, those people are, if you get out of line there, man, they don't play. You know what I mean? And I think that the reason why is because they're dealing with on average, a lower IQ population. So it takes, more strict tactics in order to gain any type of control. I look at even with Saddam Hussein and Syria. A lot of these regions are so unstable because Saddam knew how to control those people. It wouldn't be an ISIS if we hadn't invaded Iraq. We wouldn't even know what ISIS was. You know what I mean? It's only in existence because we destabilized the region of people, and now they can't govern themselves. So,
which is why that's how they want them. But that part about the 25 stuff. Do you mind if I do a video on that topic?
Please do.
Because that is I think we're going somewhere. You made me just think about how I'm looking at my own. I don't have any kids, but certainly how I'm looking at developing my own kids myself. You just made me think of something that I never thought about. I mean, we always look at college funds and stuff like that, but we never look at stuff like marriage funds. I mean, we never look at that kind of stuff. So.
No doubt. Yeah, that's a big one, man, because, family, that's ultimate, man. And if we can foster something like that, I think we'd be a major powerhouse, like within, a couple generations, man, of doing that, of high IQ blacks. I'm telling you, we'd be a powerhouse within a few generations, of doing that, especially if we're arranging these marriages and, and not giving them access to the funds until after maybe 10 years of marriage, or giving them certain, increments of the trust fund, after certain increments of marriage, and just, offering counseling when they have problems. I mean, even the whole, I was watching a video, about, the angry man. He had did a video about, being able to, cheat on women. And I'm like, see this, we can't get, devolve into, and I'm not saying nothing is wrong with polygamous relationships, because I'm not one that says polygamy is necessarily bad. I just don't think it's functional. I don't think it's something that you can functionally govern, in a real way. Like in theory, it sounds like it would work awesome, but I think in practice, I don't think it's something that could work. Because for one, you're creating multiple children, and from one person, and if those killed children go out and meet, then you're running a risk of uh, having different medical issues with those children, because if they inbreed, it's a reason why society doesn't work. We need genetic diversity in the population in order to foster better human beings, period. Like if you have one person fathering 20 children, then you're decreasing the genetic diversity in the population. So I think human beings have strayed away from it from a biological sense, outside of it just being something that is fun for the guy or whatever. But beyond that, I just think that black men have to get out of the thinking that we need to cheat on our women. I think it's the exact opposite. We don't need to cheat on our women. We need to be faithful to our women, and we need to raise families in faithful, productive societies. And we need to, figure out a way to stray away from that type of thinking. All of that came from rap music. Most of it came from rap music, and undisciplined behavior, and the promotion of catering to the lower self, liberalism, doing what the fuck you want to do, that attitude. We can't just do what we want to do and not be. It's just kind of like you being in medical school right now. You're in medical school and you're not doing what the hell you want to do. You're doing what those instructors are making you do so you can get what you want at the end of the tunnel. You can't just go do what you want to do. You know what I mean? And we've adopted a culture of do what the hell you want to do, and I don't think that is going to work for our overall viability. I think I lost Oshay.